Okay, this is going to be a brief tutorial on using FB4 Laser with xLights. Um, Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to export some cues from the laser workspace onto the FB4 device. This is a laser that has a built-in FB4. If you have a laser with an ILDA input, you can actually also use this external FB4. You get the network port here, also has DMX inputs, and this is where you would plug your DB25 cable into your laser that does not have FB4. But it does have to be an ILDA equipped laser projector with the ILDA standard DB25 input. So, all right. So we can, first thing we're going to do is we're going to mess with some settings on the FB4 to get it, to prepare it for xLights. We can do that on the FB4 menu itself, or we can, easier way to do that is actually to go into the FB4 settings in Quick Show, and you can access all of that stuff in here. So, which is nice because you can remotely adjust all your settings if your laser is somewhere that is inaccessible at the time. So right now we're in the Beyond QS mode. Over here you can see my IP address. It is fixed right now. It's a static IP of 192.168.1.110. And I'm going to make sure that that is on the same range as my computer running xLights. We're also going to be adjusting our size in the FB4 itself. I'm going to actually, I can go in and adjust all my sizing in the settings and the geometric correction settings in Quick Show and export these cues with that sizing, but in this case I just want to export everything at full size and use my FB4 master scaling to scale back and in my output zone. One other thing you want to make sure you do is in the ArtNet settings here, which is what we're going to be using, ArtNet. We could also use DMX if we wanted to. I'll get into that a little bit. We're going to be using ArtNet for this particular case. You want to make sure that the universe is set to 1. It defaults to being 0, and in some cases universe 0 corresponds with universe 1 in certain software and controllers, but in our case xLights universe 1 is universe 1 here as well. So we're going to leave the subnet like that. Channel 1, that's our starting address. We're going to leave that. And all I really need to do is, well, first we're going to export these cues. So to do that, we're going to go into our FB4 export. And I'm going to use this DMX FB3 blank template. I'm going to use the FB3 because that's going to allow me to use the FB3 profile, which is a 16-channel profile. This is how you're going to be controlling the FB4 with these 16 channels. And to go over it really quick, there's 4 modes: basic, standard, extended, and full. And the modes are basically accessed by choosing a range in channel 1. You can see that 33 to 95 is your basic range, 97 to 105 is standard range. So that first channel 1, you're going to need to set that to one of these areas to be able to access these channels. So if you're in the basic range, you're accessing the first 4 channels. So you're only going to be using the first 4 channels. Standard range, 8 channels, as it's color coded here. And the more channels you're using, the more control you can actually have in the laser output. So like you can see, the basic is basically just choosing the page and queue. So it's essentially just choosing the queue that you want to use, and then you have the option to have speed it up or whatever. So the standard, if you were to extend that, and then you get sort of, you can do fading with, it's basically essentially a dimmer channel, zoom, X, and then it keeps going, position, all the way to being able to choose color and scan rate and all that kind of stuff. So you can actually control quite a bit, just from the ArtNet control. So back to export. So again, I'm going to use this FB3 template, and that will allow me to essentially just pick and choose what I want from the workspace and drag it over to one of my 9 pages I have available to export. If I wanted to, I could just drag and drop each queue. So that would essentially just be page 1, Q1 right here. But in this case, I'm gonna take this whole page and put that on page 1 by selecting animals and then hitting this assign current works page. So that essentially just takes all the queues and puts them on page 1 from this page 1 workspace. So we're just going to be using these animals as our example. So I'm going to click export, and it's going to ask me to save my FB4 file, and I'm just going to call it test. Essentially, if you want to go back to this, you can come back to that file and make changes. So here it's asking us, do we want to use color size and geometric correction and apply those to our cues? In this case, we do not, because again, like I said, we're going to be using, we're going to be resizing from the FB4 itself. We're going to keep this really simple. If I wanted to resize everything with geometric correction inside the software and then export it, I would want to have this selected. But in this case, again, I do not. Next. Generic content usable on any projector. This is what we're going to choose. If I were to make a timeline show with multiple projectors and export it that way, and essentially what I would do is I would save my timeline show to a queue and then export that queue onto the FB4. Then I would want to choose content intended to be used on specific projectors, because my specific zones and such would essentially sends everything out to where it needs to be. In this case, we're going to use generic content. We only have one laser. We're sending all of this stuff to one laser. That's it. So then it's going to give you the list of projectors that you can send that information to. The FB3 right here, that's an FB3 device that I have that holds my license for Beyond, so it doesn't really matter. We want to send it to this FB4 right here. Next, export to connected FB4. Yes, that's the easiest way to do it. Next. Now it's exporting. Close that, and you can see in the right hand corner here, down here, it is exporting right now. You got to wait till that finishes. So at this point, it is done exporting. So we're going to go back to our FB4 settings, and we just want to switch this to ArtNet mode. And then you're going to see that the laser quick show shows that it's disconnected. That's because it's not in Beyond QS mode anymore. It's in ArtNet mode. So we'll exit out of that, and then we're going to go in xLights. Now we're going to set up our FB4 as an ArtNet controller, just like we would set up an LED controller. ArtNet is network. It's over Ethernet, so we're going to add an Ethernet controller. And the address was 1.110. We do want to make sure that our protocol is ArtNet. I'm going to change this to laser 1. And start universe is 1. That's good. Everything looks good. All right, so we'll go to our layout now. And I already have the model created It's a DMX model. I'm going to go ahead and import it here. It's FB3 style 16 channel model. DMX models in here just look like these little square bottle or square boxes, and they'll show you like the channels ranges when it pops up. This is a 16 channels, and if you go to my node names here, which are essentially my channel names, I basically took my profile channels and just added them into the 16 that are right here, so I know what I'm looking at when I'm adjusting the DMX channel. So click OK. For controller, you want to make sure that that's going to laser 1, and we're going to select port 1, and then we're going to select, I use this DMX open right here. I think you can probably use other DMX protocols. I don't think it really matters, but DMX open seems to work for me. Channel 1, that's what we want because we are set to channel 1 in our FB4 settings. Save. All right, so that's pretty much it. You're not going to have any visualization or whatever. You can just kind of set this anywhere. Like I said, when I start messing with the channels, you'll start seeing little channel boxes pull up in here, and there's just not much to look at. So sequencer, we're gonna start a new sequence. We'll just do an animation. 40 frames, it's fine. So our FB3 style 16 channel FB4 is here, and we're gonna throw a DMX effect onto it. And I already had done this before, so when you put a new effect, when you put a DMX effect on a channel when it's already open, it kind of defaults to having the previous settings. So I'd already set my mode to 84, which is in the basic range. So I'm using the basic range. It's within 33 to 95. So I want to make sure I set my channel 1 to within 33 to 95. It doesn't matter where. Page 1 is actually 0 to 15, so I can leave that to 0. And then Q1 is 33 to 35. And then Q2 would be 37 to 39, and so on. And I think you have like up to 48 Qs on that channel. So minimize that. So we're already set to 34, so that's going to be Q1. So when I hit my light output, I should get laser output. And there it is. So that's pretty much, you know, as simple as it gets. If I want to add another DMX Q on here, and I want to change this Q to something else, I can do that. So then when I run my timeline, it's going to play my laser Q